Hello everyone, Nicole here. Welcome back for another Stamp and Die Success video. This time we'll be looking at the Build a Flower Torch Ginger stamp set from Altenew. This is a part of their popular Build a Flower monthly subscription series. I'll be using the Rose Petal ink colors, so these four here. Now if you don't have the Rose Petal, another suitable substitute would be the Red Sunset. Of course, you're going to get more red images than pink, but they're both very realistic. I'm also going to try to throw in a white version of the Torch Ginger since that does come botanically that way. For our first example, I'm going to start with the color combination I used for this card, and it is using these colors, and I'll show you how I did them and in what order. So I'm going to start with the background, and I'm going to do that in Purple Wine. The reason I'm doing that is because it's a nice dark color, and it's going to help me work on aligning all of the other colors as I go. So I'm going to pop that in place. There we go. Now I'll cycle back to the the full background, and I'm going to use Rose Quartz. This is the lightest shade of the four. So if you're using a different set of inks, note that I went from the third darkest now to the lightest shade, and as long as you keep those in order, then you should be able to replicate these results just in a different shade. All right, so I've got my lightest color down, and then I'll go to my next layer. This one is going to just change, it's actually going to fill in quite a bit of it. It's just going to leave a few little white spaces where the rose quartz is going to show through. So I'm going to my number 2 color here. This is Puffy Heart. And I'm going to line it up with this leaf right here, and that's going to help me keep everything aligned. All right, so you can see that there is now some of that light pink is showing through, but not a whole lot of it. All right, then I will move on to Purple Wine. So remember, this is the color that I did as the outline. And again, I'm going to use this leaf here as my guide point. All right, and then finally I will go ahead and use the last layer and do that in Cosmic Berry. And this layer really does add some depth and dimension to the stamp. Okay, so to take this a shade lighter, I'm going to start omitting the full background. So again, I will do the outline, but instead of doing it in Purple Wine, I will do it in Puffy Heart. All right, and we will come back to that one. Then I'm going to skip the full background and go to the one that fills up most of the background and would just leave a few little white spots. This time, of course, those spots are actually going to be white. So I am doing this in the lightest shade, the Rose Quartz. All right, so I have little white spots all over the place. It looks really great. Then I will move to the next layer, and I will do that in Puffy Heart. So remember, Puffy Heart was the color that I did in the outline. All right. And then for my final layer, I'll do that in Purple Wine. So we're omitting the Cosmic Berry, the darkest shade. And there you go. All right, so if we wanted to take this even a step further, let me move my paper up here. I'm going to omit Purple Wine and Cosmic Berry altogether and just focus on using Rose Quartz and Puffy Heart. So again, I will do the outline in Puffy Heart, but I want to make it a little fainter, so I just have a piece of scratch paper here, and I'm just going to stamp that off real quick and then stamp it down. So this is a second generation stamping, and you can still see the outline, but it's lighter than it was in the previous sample. All right, so again, I'm going to skip that full background and go to this one here. And I'm going to do that in Rose Quartz again. And this is a very, very light color, but I am going to stamp it off. So I will stamp it off again. And I don't mind that I didn't get it perfectly stamped off. Sometimes, you know, flowers, they're all so unique, so it doesn't really matter. You might have some darker and lighter areas, but that's okay. That's just the naturalness of flowers, right? Okay, so I can move on to my next one. And I will do that in the same Rose Quartz, but now I'm not going to, oops, that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to do it in, yes, the Rose Quartz, but I will use the right ink this time. And I'm not going to stamp it off this time, so of course I'm going to get a darker image. All right, so you can kind of see that it's just a hint darker than the one underneath it. And then for the final layer, I will do the Puffy Heart, but I will grab the right color here and stamp that on top. All right, so yet again, another version that is even lighter than our original. All right, for our last sample, I'm going to do a white version, and I'm going to use Rose Quartz as the base for it, because I noticed that in looking at some pictures, there is always just like a hint of pink, and of course yellow from like the stamen from the flower, but really just a hint of pink. So I'm going to stamp off because I want the faintest of outlines here. All right, so I have just a very faint outline, but it is enough to see it in person. So I've done that, and then I'm going to skip this one here and move right into my detail images. And again, I will do that in Rose Quartz, which I will stamp off again. All right, and it just takes a moment to line it up. The lines underneath are very faint, so I've got to be very careful about where I'm going with this. All right, we'll see if that was right. All right, that was pretty close. All right, and then I will go ahead and add in the last layer, again with the same Rose Quartz, and I'm not going to stamp it off this time. I really would like to get just a little, more of a hint of pink in the inside here. And there we go. So now I have an almost completely white torch ginger. All right, so there are 4 different colorways using the same set of inks to create some beautiful torch gingers for your next project. If you enjoyed today's video, please do consider subscribing and click on the bell so you'll get notified of new videos as I publish them. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and until next time, happy crafting.